Dear viewers, it's my great pleasure to introduce a guest speaker from Australia today. She is popular by her name, Parul Oberoi. She runs a YouTube channel by name Ask Parul. She focuses on educating people in the finance and investment, professional and personal upliftment, and these are the kind of subjects she has interviewed. Lot of popular persons on her channel. I have gone her channel many a times. If you are somebody who is living in Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, she covers a lot of topics which are of interest to you. It's a good idea that you also encourage her, watch her channel, subscribe to the channel, and get benefited from the content she produces. A bit of a background of Parul Oberoi. Parul Oberoi has more than 15 years of experience. She did her master's from SP Jain School of Management from Singapore. She did her post-graduation studies in data analytics. She has worked in multiple countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and currently she lives in Australia. Parul, it's a great honor to interview today about something which is of very important to each and every person who lives in the Australian continent, super fund. Welcome to this episode, Parul.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhatt. I think it's my pleasure actually to come on your channel. I have been following your channel, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure of mine to be on this respectable platform. Thank you so much.
To get started, we have a lot of clients in Australia. And during our practicing sessions, we get to know about they have saved a lot of money in super funds. They tell me about a lot of stories about it, the benefits. Sometimes they get some about super. I just thought, why not we do a complete video on super fund? Of course, it's a very vast subject. I would like to add a disclaimer here. This is an attempt to educate about the super fund of Australia. This is not a financial advice, and people whoever wants to act based on the content that we have produced should seek professional advice from the licensed professionals in Australia before they take the final decision to invest, not to invest, more, less, whatever it is. Please do consult professional advice. And this is a video only meant for educational purpose. Parul, my first question to you is, what is superannuation and what is it popularly known as in Australia?
Sure. So, Australia's superannuation system is one of the main way that most people save for their retirement in Australia. And superannuation, short form, or most commonly, you will hear the word super. So, usually people will say it super. So I will also, whenever I say super, I mean superannuation. So superannuation is a tax efficient saving system primarily for retirement. So just to give an analogy, if somebody, let's say, is watching from India, the way we used to have a provident fund, the employers used to deduct a certain percentage of the base salary and they used to contribute in a PF. It's similar to that. So here, the employers are mandated to contribute 11.5%. So as on July last year, 2024, previously, it was 11%. Now it has been increased to 11.5% of the base salary. The employers are supposed to contribute on your behalf to your nominated super fund. And people can also do some voluntary contributions to grow their retirement funds faster. So typically, whenever somebody is doing some additional voluntary contributions, it's usually up to a cap. So here in Australia, we call it concessional contributions. So as on financial year 24, which is, the last financial year, the concessional contributions cap is 30,000 Australian dollar. So that is a combination of the 11.5%, which the employers will usually contribute. You can also do a salary sacrifice. Some people do that. And then on top of that, if you want to make, let's say, for example, if you have made only 20,000 AUD until a financial year and you have a gap of 10,000, then people can do some extra contributions as well. Now, the employers can choose their super fund. So, for example, if somebody has joined an organization, they will usually fill up a form wherein the employer will ask that, hey, do you want to have your own? Do you want to have chosen your own super fund, or you maybe want to go with an employer specific super fund. So you can transfer the funds, you can consolidate, all that is possible. But yeah, in a nutshell, its main purpose is retirement. However, there are many other benefits as well, and it's commonly known as super in Australia.
When you say there are many other benefits, my understanding about similar funds across globe is that it is an accumulation fund to build a retirement corpus. What do you want to do with it post your retirement? In each country, it has its own rules, regulation. In some countries, it says 58 years, some countries 60, 65 years. You take that money as an annuity or a structured withdrawal. That's what you do. But I have heard about super fund being more than a retirement fund. What are the benefits the super fund can give to the person who contributes to the super fund?
So super funds actually include a lot of benefits. Obviously, retirement is the main driver, but it's so amazing that in Australia, super can actually include some cost-effective insurance. So, for example, there are three things that I will talk about. So, the first is life cover, which is generally called as a death cover. So, wherein this pays a lump sum or an income stream to whoever is the beneficiary. Let's say in an unfortunate incident, if somebody dies or somebody has a terminal illness, so you can actually, somebody, can actually buy that life cover or life insurance within super. The second is TPD, which is called total and permanent disability cover. That also pays a benefit. Let's say if somebody becomes seriously disabled or which is total and permanent disability, they may not be able to work again, so they can buy the TPD insurance as well within super. And the third, very important, is income protection insurance. So, what an income protection is also called as salary continuance cover. So, let's assume if somebody met an accident, they are not able to work, let's say for a considerable period of time. It's not a permanent disability, but let's say a temporary illness or disability or anything that somebody goes through. If they are, let's say, not able to work for a certain period, if they have taken income protection insurance for a specific duration, let's say for 2 years, 5 years, it would pay that regular income for that specified period. It's not a health insurance. Health insurance is totally different, which is an accident which you get into. This is, let's say, if somebody is not able to work after they have been discharged and everything, and that usually kicks in after 30 days. It totally depends on the cover that you have taken. But these are the three kind of insurance which are very relevant for individuals. Of course, the taxation works separately. So if I give my example, I have taken the life cover and TPD insurance in super, but the income protection I have taken outside super because that's more tax efficient for me. But everyone is different. So, like you were saying at the beginning, it's not an advice of any sort, but it's just to make people aware that don't just take super or superannuation as retirement, just as a retirement purpose, a vehicle to create saving, but often there are insurance benefits as well. And I would also like to point out that there are other benefits as well. So if somebody, let's say, is for compassionate reasons, for medical reasons, other reasons, if they want to access their superannuation funds, that's also possible. Obviously, it's on case by case basis, but it's very important that people see super not just as retirement driver, but also as something which they can leverage specifically for insurance benefits.
Parul, you mentioned that employer has an obligation to deduct at 11.5% of the basic salary for as a contribution to super fund. You also mentioned that there is an upper ceiling to which a level a person can contribute. Now, let's say that if I were to be working in Australia and I want to maximize my savings, or I would say optimize my savings, how do you feel someone has to approach this thing? How much he has to contribute? Are there anything that they have to keep in mind, the upper limits, or what might go right, what might go wrong? For the benefit of my audience, can you tell me a few things to keep in mind for optimization?
So there are different ways of optimizing. And again, everyone's situation is very different. Which tax bracket they fall into is also very different. But I can talk specifically what's there on the Australian Taxation Office, the ATO website. I'm just going to tell the most relevant things. So there are three key things that I'm going to talk about. So the first one, like I was saying, is the voluntary contributions. So the upper cap, like I was saying, is 30,000 AUD per financial year. So people can make some voluntary contributions if they are falling short. That can be done in multiple ways. Either people can do salary sacrifice, like for example, I do salary sacrifice. It makes that particular income less taxable because whatever you are making the contributions in superannuation, it's only taxed at 15%, 15%, as compared to the marginal income tax rate. So usually if somebody is on a 30% income tax bracket, or let's say on a 45% income tax bracket, it's much less than that because it's just 15%. So any concessional contributions that you have made is only taxed at 15%. So that's a big difference. Imagine if somebody is paying 45% tax versus just 15% tax. So that's one way. I think people should definitely, like I said, it's not an advice, but from a tax beneficiary perspective, I usually do salary sacrifice. I also, if let's say I'm short of whatever amount, 5,000, 10,000 by the end of the financial year. In Australia, the financial year runs from 1st of July until the 30th of June. That's the financial year that's being followed in Australia. So let's say if somebody, or for myself, if I talk about, if I'm falling short, then I would usually do some extra contributions before the end of financial year to get those tax benefits. So I think that's a good benefit. The second thing which a lot of people don't know is that there is something called as carry forward unused contributional caps. And that's something which was introduced, I think, 2018 or 2019, somewhere around that time, wherein if let's say every year you have an upper cap, right? So previous year it was 27,500, now it's 30,000. Much before than that, it was 25,000. So any unused cap amount, people can actually carry forward that amount to the next financial year, starting from financial year 2018, 2019. And that unused cap is available for 5 years. And after 5 years, it expires. So I'll just give a quick example. So let's say in the financial year 2019, 2020, if there is an unused cap, if somebody has not used, that can be used by the end of 2024 to 2025. And after that, it will expire. So that's a very good benefit that a lot of people don't know about. And it's not just in that financial year, but for any reason, if you have missed out, there are carry forward contributions. You can leverage that as well to maximize the tax benefit that people can avail. So that's a good way. And then another good benefit is the first home super saver schemes. Now, what happens in this SHSS is something that they call it, which is the first home super saver schemes, is that people can withdraw up to 15,000 Australian dollar of the voluntary contributions from any one financial year up to a total of 50,000 across multiple years. Now, when I say this FHSS, which is the first home super saver scheme, it may not be right for everyone, because what not a lot of people know is that once you take out that money, let's say if you want to go buy a property and if you've taken that first home buyer benefit, if you have taken that out, let's say if somebody has taken out 15,000, when they are filing for a return, they need to add back that into their assessable income, right? So it may not be right for everyone. Hence, it's very important that people should be aware about what are the implications of each benefit that they are availing in super. If they are in doubt, it's always best to reach an accountant or a financial planner and discuss your unique circumstances. But I feel that if people are aware, then these concessional contributions, the unused cap contributions, or in some cases, the first home buyer as well, can be good benefits that people can avail.
Parul, we have heard about a term called self-managed super fund. I'm given to understand that it is something which is very unique. If somebody is managing his super fund on his own, there are a wide range of benefits, like, he can invest in property. I don't understand practically. These are the things what has been told to me. Do you have any information on that? What's this SMSF? What's the additional benefits an individual is likely to get creating that SMSF?
Right. So SMSF stands for Self-Managed Super Fund. So it's very unique to Australia. And you are right. I have also not heard about it in any other country. But what an SMSF does is that it gives control to an individual on their investments. Because like I was saying that, let's say if somebody has 50,000 or 100,000 in their superannuation, that's being put into some kind of investments, right? So it's not just lying there, but it's being put into some kind of investment instruments. Now, what an SMSF does is that it gives control to an individual over those investments, including property. So people can buy a property, an investment property, by the way, not the principal place of residence, but an investment property within the super or within the SMSF. And it has some tax advantages, and I'll come to that in a bit, like the lower rates on rental income and capital gain as well. There are different structures to SMSF, like you can build an individual trustees or under the name of a company. But I think as easy as it might sound, it may sound very appealing to people that, oh, I have full control on my super, so I can go and invest anywhere. That's not how it is. SMSF may not be right for everyone. So people need to be aware that there are a lot of fees. There is a setup fees, there are ongoing fees, which can make it expensive. And there are myths that people feel that they can go and invest in anything. That's not how it works. There are a lot of rules and restrictions. And the best place to go and see is the ATO website, which is the Australia Taxation Office. And also, if let's say somebody is managing their own fund, which is through SMSF, they need to be dedicating enough time. They need to have the right acumen, the legal knowledge, the financial knowledge, and the capability to run it successfully. So it comes with benefits, but it also comes with risk. So the best thing is that people should go and see a licensed financial advisor to decide if SMSF is the right thing for them or not, and what structure is the most relevant. Is it individual or company? How many trustees can be added, and so on. So coming to some advantages of holding a property. So it's a very common practice in Australia that at some point, people do end up buying a property, an investment property under SMSF. And it's not for everyone, even though the ATO website doesn't say any threshold, but a good practice that I've seen people following is that a minimum balance of $200,000 or $250,000 they should be having in their super before they can go and purchase a property within SMSF. So there are a few benefits. Like I was saying, that any kind of taxation within super is charged at 15% as compared to the marginal rate. So let's assume if somebody is getting a rental income, then that concessional tax on that rental income is 15% as compared to their personal income, which can be 30% or 45%. So that's a good tax saving. The second thing is that the concessional tax on future capital gains. If let's say somebody decides to sell that property after they have moved into their retirement age or the pension phase. So typically it's post 65 years. Whether you're retired or not retired doesn't matter. But let's say if somebody moves into the post 65 years, that's the retirement phase. If let's say they sell that property that they have bought within SMSF, the capital gains is usually exempted from tax altogether. So that's a very good benefit, which I have seen people availing, especially when they are buying property in SMSF. So yeah, I think there are obviously benefits, but like I said, with benefits come the risks. So it's very important that people should just not go by the terminology that it's self-managed, so they can do whatever they want to. Understand the structures, work with a professional, and set up the right structures for yourself.
One of the comments you made was when somebody makes a salary sacrifice and they will be taxed at a differential rate, unlike the marginal rate. So I personally feel it's kind of a tax loophole that a high net worth or a high income guy can contribute big time into it and save taxes. Is it true, or is there more things to know? With the checks and balances which have been put on the system.
So definitely, and I think it's in many countries. So, for example, I know in India as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if somebody is earning more than 50 lakhs, I believe there's a surcharge, right? So, similar logic I am transposing here. So, here, if somebody's income is exceeding $250,000 Australian dollar in a particular financial year, instead of the concessional contribution being taxed at 15%, instead of that, it's 30%. Okay, so that's a big jump. So it's obviously, but on the other hand, if you look at it, it's still lower than the highest marginal rate, right? Of 45%. So in Australia, the highest you can be charged if you are earning more than 190,000 US, oh, sorry, not USD, AUD, is 45%. So just last year, there was a stage 3 tax cuts. So previously, anyone who is earning more than $180,000 was charged at 47%. Now, after the stage 3 tax cuts, anyone whose salary is more than 190,000 is charged at 45%. So that's the highest that they can be charged. Now, if you look at super, if somebody's income is more than 250,000, there the concessional contributions are taxed at 30%. For anyone who is earning less than $250,000, it's still the 15%. So obviously, the higher you're earning, the government wants more of that pie. But like I said, I think if you compare it to the highest marginal rate of 45%, you're still better off 15%. And when I say income here, income doesn't just mean the salary that somebody is drawing. It includes any bonuses, any overseas income, interest income, dividends, whatever, like any form of income that you have earned, capital gains, taxes, rental income, whatever you can say. It's your total income that's accessible for that year. If that is more than $250,000, unfortunately, fortunately, they are taxed at 30% instead of 15% in super.
Anyway, for one reason, I'm very happy today. People keep blaming India, like this, but at least I pay lesser tax than the Australia. So I have a great association with Australia. I have been to Australia multiple number of times. I lived in the state of Tasmania way back in '92. I lived in cities like Hobart, Devonport, all these towns for about 3 months. I have visited multiple cities multiple number of times. I had been to Sydney multiple number of times, Melbourne multiple number of times, Perth, Adelaide, all these places. But one thing I'm very happy today is that I pay lesser tax compared to the top taxpayer in the Australia. That's something that makes me happy that I chose India to to live my life. Anyway,
I think, unfortunately, you can't escape taxes. It's very transparent system, so I think you just can't escape that.
exactly. I and they just keep discussing on that. When will we get a rebate on taxes? We expect Nirmala Sitharaman to be kind to us to pay lesser taxes because we don't get anything except the security, policing, and other things. Anyway, that's it. Anyway, we are lucky ones who are at least are able to pay taxes. That's the way we'll say thanks to the God to keep us this way. Coming back to the thing that in spite of having so much of an education website showing the correct information, practitioners, people still make mistakes while they use super, or for that matter, in any part of the world, how best they can minimize the taxes. Every government across the globe makes its efforts to reduce the tax burden and kind of a thing. So, in your opinion, and from the people whom you have interacted, seen, what are the common mistakes people make while using the super fund?
People do make a lot of mistakes, and some mistakes are, I would say, most of them I would say are unintentional, lack of awareness, well, are time poor. So through your channel, obviously, if somebody is listening to it, the first key mistake I think is that most people don't even look at what kind of balance they have in super. They don't understand the fee structure. They don't understand where their investments are being contributed to. Is it the right kind of investment for their age group? Yes and no. And I have made those same mistakes. So I think I'm no different, but obviously I've learned over time. So people have multiple super accounts. They worked in one organization, they didn't close it, they moved to another organization, open a new super account. They keep on ignoring their investment options. They don't even know, like I was saying, if somebody is 25 years old, and if you are, let's say, your super funds is being invested in a very conservative firm, to me, that's not the best use of the money that they have in super. People overlook the insurance cover. Like I was saying, a lot of my friends, even people who are citizens of Australia, living here for 10, 15 years, they don't even have basic insurance like TPD cover or income protection insurance. I'm not saying that people need to take within super. You can take outside of super as well, but at least being aware is so important. And then sometimes people think SMSF, like I was talking about, people just feel, oh, it's self-managed super fund, so it's great. But that it's not as simple as it sounds like. And sometimes people are too conservative with their investment choices. So I would suggest like at least visit your super account every 6 months. And one good thing is that if you are dealing with a good super fund, don't stick with a bad super fund. So I have actually done one of this mistake. So I was with a really bad super fund, didn't make much contribution to that. But recently, when I moved to a different provider, they also provide free advice, unlimited advices. So you can talk to your super fund owner. They can give you the right kind of advice. So understand what benefits they offer your super fund. Is it the right super fund? Yes or no? Where your contributions are going, where the investments are being put towards, which kind of funds it's being put towards. Don't maintain more than one super fund. It's too much of work. And also leverage the insurance needs that you may have against that super. So like I said, don't just take super as a retirement building instrument, but take advantage of all the extra benefits that the super allows. That would be, I think, some things which I would like to point out.
So you say that super fund should not be used for retirement alone. Does it mean to say at the various life stages it has an utility? Is there a way it can be utilized in different stages of life?
Definitely. I think the way I see it is that it should be an instrument to help you build that kind of copper. So let's say somebody who is just starting out in their 20s or 30s, it's unlikely that they would reach that cap of 30,000 AUD that I was talking about. So maybe start with small voluntary contributions. People may think, oh, why should I do salary sacrifice? But in the long run, it can offer tax benefits. Any which ways you have to pay taxes, you might as well pay a lower taxes. So leverage those concessional contributions, do some small voluntary contributions, leverage the tax benefit through salary sacrifice. As people mature, let's say in their late 30s or 40s, they can definitely leverage carry forward contributions. So if I give my example, obviously my 30,000 get exhausted very quickly, but I leverage the carry forward contributions that I have from previous years. So that's one way I leverage it. In 50s or late 40s, people can try exploring SMSF options, the self-managed super fund, if it suits them. Of course, I'm not saying it's for everyone, but if it suits and if you're a good candidate for SMSF, people buy property on it, which they can sell at 60, 65. Once they have created that corpus, you sell that property, it's completely tax-free, the capital gains that you get, or even the rental income which people get. And then obviously once people turn 60, 65, they can either withdraw all that amount or they can convert it into smaller chunks of retirement income that people can get every month. So there are different ways across different life stages that people are in. It's always a good idea to sit with an accountant or a tax professional who can create that retirement plan if that's the end goal. But even if, let's say, you're not in that stage, take those small steps that one can leverage super in the best way possible?
Parul, one thing what I know is super is a long-term investment. It is not irrespective of whichever life stage you are in. It's a long-term investment. See, when you get into a long-term investment, the first thing that anyone has to work on is creating wealth, which means it has to beat inflation and move on. But when you try to do that, it also comes with an element of risk. It's a public fund, and there could be many choices there. So a risk will come in the attempt to beat the inflation. Are there any automated strategies or guidance in the super fund for people to use it effectively to stay away from unwanted risk or to keep themselves between the emotional barriers of fear and greed?
No, see, inflation is inevitable, and I think we were, I don't know whether I should say lucky or unlucky, but yeah, inflation was pretty high last few years, and RB had a difficult time managing that inflation, and that's why we saw the interest rates went up, and Australia is the only country, even though they mimic US, US has already reduced their rates, but Australia is, I would say, still a bit conservative on that stand where they're not reducing their interest rate anytime soon. But having said that, inflation is obviously inevitable. There are strategies, and it's like any other investment instrument, right, Mr. Chandrakant? Uh, I always feel that diversifying the investment portfolio is helpful so people can spread the risk and improve the potential for returns. So that's why I was saying that if somebody has got a risk appetite, if you have, let's say, a good risk appetite, maybe put in instruments within super as well, which can, let's say, focus more on growth rather than just 3 or 4% return. Of course, for older investors, they might prefer more stability. So I think depending on people's age, depending on their risk appetite, put in instruments within super, which is more aligned to their long-term growth. And secondly, like I was saying, diversifying is the best way, whether it's through ETFs, mix of asset classes, real estate, term deposits, etc. So if you have a good mix of debt versus equity, I feel that's a good way of, even if let's say one thing blows up, the other things keeps your overall portfolio return sane. So that's one way. And the second is that one should continually review and adjust their contributions as per the different life stages. So, like I was saying at the beginning, that at least a good practice that I follow is that I check my super every 6 months. I'm with a super fund provider that provides free financial advice. I usually talk to the investment planner and I ask that, hey, given my age and given my other portfolio, am I in the right portfolio? Because I have good risk taking ability, I have put myself in the highest risk taking bracket. But at the same time, because I have other ways to mitigate it, so overall it works out nicely for me. I'm not saying everyone needs to do the same thing, but to each his own. Then, like I said, government policies are also there that people can take benefit of, whether it's through first home saver schemes. People, super is not flexible, a lot of compassionate grounds on which people can early access their super as well. The best place to go and watch is the ATO website. So there are ways to mitigate strategy and inflation, but I think if people are well informed, that's the great way. If people are not well informed, the best way is to work with a practitioner.
Many a times, what happens is some of the schemes floated will have additional benefits which people will not know. I'll tell you an example now. The insurance policies in India many a times could have been booked under Married Women's Properties Act. That means that money cannot be touched by anyone else. Like public provident fund, they have a tax advantage. Then it is immune to any attachment by any courts. Does super fund have such benefits what generally people may not know about?
So people, like I was saying, I think super offer tax benefits. So anything which is their income or anything that you get is 15% taxed, which is very low as compared to the marginal rate. If somebody is in a 45% or 30%, it's definitely much less than that. That's important. Insurance cover. people don't know about. People can get life insurance, income protection. Income protection, when I talk to people in India, like they feel they've never heard about something like an income protection insurance, that your income can be protected as well within super. TPD, total permanent disability, God forbidden, somebody can't work. Yes, you have that allowance with you. First home super saver scheme for additional benefits people can get. Sometimes I've also seen for medical reasons, if people are unable to afford or something like that, people can, for compassionate grounds, can access their superannuation. It's discretionary, of course, but I'm saying that there are these compassionate reasons or medical reasons for which people can apply for an early release of funds, and the government, I think, just reviews it on a case by case basis. Many of these super funds, good super funds, provide financial advice, also free financial advice. So in Australia, even if you, let's say, go to a financial advice, you'll just charge you $300 or $400 for one consultation. But let's assume if you are with a good super fund, they will provide that free financial advice for the rest of your life. So there are these many good benefits. I think it takes time and effort to find the right super fund. And I feel if you are with one of them, then definitely your super will grow. I have seen a lot of change in my super account ever since I have switched. In my initial part in Australia, it didn't grow much, but lately it has worked well for me.
See, one aspect of super is it's a long-term investment and it gets locked up to, I presume it's 65 years. But these days we have a peculiar problem. We don't stick to one single country for lifetime. People move from place to place. You have moved from Singapore, Malaysia, then you have been to Australia. I have lived in multiple countries and I am currently living in India. What if a person were to move out of Australia? Is there an exit route which is provided to get out of the super fund, or they are forced to stay there in super fund till that maturity date of 65 years?
So that totally depends on the resident status. So I'm assuming you're talking about NRIs. Let's assume NRIs, non-resident of India. So technically an NRI is anyone who is living outside of India for more than 182 days, I believe, becomes an NRI, right? So let's assume if somebody can come to Australia, not just from India, but let's say from UK, US in general, let's say, either people can come on a temporary resident visa or a work visa or temporary visa, or they can be a permanent resident or citizen. So there are two different categories, right? So let's first talk about the NRIs or anyone. Let's say somebody is in Dubai or UK or the US, they come to Australia on a temporary resident visa or a work visa. So they are not yet a citizen or a permanent resident. They're still on a temporary visa. They can withdraw their super. Let's say if they are leaving Australia, they can actually withdraw their super. There is a scheme called DASP, which is Departing Australia Superannuation Payment. It's called DASP. So they can actually withdraw. The tax implications are slightly different to the normal way. Or what they can do is they can just leave their they can just leave their super to grow tax effectively in Australia, and at a later point, if they want to withdraw, they can withdraw it. So residents who are on a temporary visa, who have worked in Australia for a short period of time, or they are not yet a citizen or a permanent resident, they can avail this withdrawal thing through DASP, which is Departing Australia Superannuation Payment, if let's say they are moving overseas. But if, let's say, somebody is a permanent resident or a citizen, and if they are leaving Australia, then the rules are slightly different as per the ATO website. For them, their super will remain subject to the normal rules that apply to all the other Australian citizens or permanent residents in Australia, even if they are departing permanently. So, which in this case means that they will not be able to access their super until they reach their preservation age. So the preservation age is generally defined as per the date of birth. In most cases, it's 60 years and they retire, or unless they reach 65. In some cases, yes, there are special conditions where they can ask for an early release. But generally, like I said, if you are a permanent resident or a citizen, then the same rule applies. Like to all other citizens of Australia. And if, let's say, however, if somebody is departing permanently, they will no longer receive those compulsory contributions, like I was saying, from an Australian employer. But let's say, even if somebody works for the same employer, when they are overseas, they won't be making any contributions on their behalf, right? If they are a non-resident for tax purposes. But let's say if somebody is with an Australian employee and they've just been sent to work to a different country temporarily, then the employer must continue to pay the super contributions in Australia on behalf of that particular employee. So the rules are slightly different for permanent resident citizens versus if, let's say, somebody has just come on a temporary visa, maybe for work permit or other kind of things. And if they want to depart, they can avail that departing Australia scheme. But if you're a permanent resident or citizen, then the choices are a bit limited.
Thank you, Parul. That has been a great amount of information about super. I had lots of doubt myself because we deal with a lot of these people who live in Australia, particularly the Indian crowd who are gone there on a work assignment, who are coming back. They keep asking us a lot of questions about super. I'm clear about what super fund, the benefits, how people can harness it to save on the taxes, additional benefits that they can get. Thank you very much for your time to come on our channel, explain all these points for the benefit of all those people who are watching this channel from Australia. Again, my sincere request for my audience is she produces quality videos. She comes with content which is very useful, implementable. She interviews a lot of people who have succeeded in the practicing line. She is worthy of support of all of you. Please do subscribe to her channel, Ask Parul, and get benefited from the content she produces. Thank you, Parul, for all the time that you have spared for us. Thank you very much.
So I think that's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm hopeful that the audience would have got some valuable information through the content. Thank you so much.
Dear viewers, hope the video that I've done today helped you to understand Superfund in all its details. Of course, it is an ocean of information there. You have to go to the relevant website of Australian government to know more about it or speak to a professional who is specialized into super funds. Nevertheless, for a beginner, whatever that they need to know, we have covered everything. If it helped you to understand the finer points around it, please do give me a thumbs up and do share these videos with your friends and relatives, near and dear ones, on all the social media handles on which you're connected with. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic. I shall be back with you next Tuesday with yet another expert, with yet another topic. Till then, stay safe. Jai Hind.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.